Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Tender Journey Tarot. I'm Mel, astrologer and tarot practitioner, and today I had a change of schedule. I was originally planning to do this podcast on Monday, but the energies actually told me to come on today. So I'm going to follow that leading and do the weekly forecast for December 15th through the 21st today. So I'm pretty excited to dig into this with you. Let's cover the major astrology transits for the upcoming week. On Monday, December 15th, we have three major transits that hit on the same day. Mars enters Capricorn. So Mars is our drive, our ambition, how we take action. And when it moves into Capricorn, our energy becomes more focused, disciplined, and strategic. You'll actually feel motivated to follow through on things instead of just getting hyped about ideas. Capricorn Mars wants results, so not just vibes. Think less impulsive action, more calculated moves with actual structure behind them. We have Venus squaring Saturn. Venus rules love and money, and Saturn is the planet of rules, limitations, reality. When they square, it creates a tense aspect. So we're forced to see things where things aren't sustainable. Relationships during this transit may show you where your effort isn't matching the enthusiasm. If it's your finances, it shows you where you've been overspending or under-earning. This transit doesn't let us coast on potential anymore. It's asking what's actually real and what has legs to last. Jupiter goes into Cancer, squaring Chiron and Aries. Jupiter expands whatever it touches, and Chiron is our deepest wound. It's often called the wounded healer. Both planets are retrograde, so you're reviewing old emotional patterns. This square brings up past hurts around feeling safe, being autonomous, or proving your worth. It's uncomfortable, but it's happening because we're ready to heal it. It's like our nervous system is finally feeling safe enough to process something we've been pushing down. On Thursday, December 19th, we have this new moon in Sagittarius. New moons are for fresh starts and setting intentions. And in Sagittarius, this is about reconnecting with your truth, your optimism, and what you actually believe in. It's good for getting clear on where you've been people pleasing or where you've been losing yourself. On Saturday, December 21st, we have the sun entering Capricorn, the beginning of the winter solstice, right? This marks the shift from Sag season, that's expansive, optimistic, the big picture, to Capricorn season, that's grounded, ambitious, practical. Our focus moves from dreaming to building. Capricorn wants you to get organized, to take responsibility and put in the work. It's the difference between talking about your goals and actually opening that Excel sheet. Remember that saying, don't be about it. Don't talk about it, be about it. This week is about getting honest with yourself, seeing what's actually sustainable, setting real boundaries, and acknowledging where old wounds are still influencing your choices. That's a rundown of the week's astrology. Now what I want to do is go into the tarot. Actually, I want to figure out what our guiding message is before we go into the tarot. Let's go to the oracle. And I'm trying to figure out what oracle I want to use. I've been really loving the art oracle lately. I feel like it has a lot of deep truths for us. So I'm going to use the art oracle, and I'm going to pull our guiding message for the week. What is our guiding message for this week? Got one card that fell out on the desk. I'll put those aside. Caravaggio. What does this mean? Try to keep violence metaphorical. Adjust your eyes to darkness. A head on the shoulders is worth two in the hand. So what does the Caravaggio card actually mean for us in light of this week's astrology? I think we're going to see a little bit more as we pull the dailies for the tarot. But from what I know about Caravaggio and kind of his philosophy around art, oh, hold on, I'm trying to respond to a chat here. Thank you for your patience. I can talk about what I know about the artist, and then together let's figure out how this connects to this week's astrology. Let's see here. Caravaggio was known for the way he played with light and shadow, right? He depicted art in this raw, gritty, realistic way. There is, I think it would fit really well with this week's astrology, because the astrology for this week is saying get real with yourself, right? So let's talk about what this card actually means for us. Let's see. As I'm pulling that up, I'm going to dig into some research on Caravaggio and see if there's anything that is of note that might illuminate why this card showed itself today. Give me 1 second. I want to just look up Caravaggio. Okay, let's see if we can pull up some information on Caravaggio. Okay, let's see. It's thinking. Let's see what we've got. Okay, so it mentions here that Caravaggio's energy is about the dramatic contrast between light and shadow. It's raw, unflinching realisms. He painted saints and biblical figures as gritty humans, not the idealized version. Ooh, that brings something to mind. If we look at this week's astrology, I can see how this connects now. I can see how it connects because we have that Venus-Saturn square, which is our reality check, and Caravaggio's honesty are basically the same message. Stop idealizing, start seeing what's actually there. Caravaggio didn't paint this pretty fantasy. He painted prostitutes as the Virgin Mary. Like, he's asking you to look at your relationships, your money, your life without the Instagram filter. The Jupiter Chiron wound work definitely connects to Caravaggio's light and shadow technique. It teaches us that our wounds aren't separate from our wholeness. They're part of the whole picture. I see how this connects now. You know, light only looks brilliant because of the darkness that surrounds it. So the painful stuff you're processing right now, it's not ruining the painting. It's what makes it real. Mars in Capricorn wants focused action, and Caravaggio was nothing if not focused. He was really committed to his vision despite controversy, and there was a lot of controversy in his work. He went for the intense emotional truth. He didn't sugarcoat anything. His honesty was actually revolutionary because it broke the rules. So what's the message? The message is stop trying to make things pretty. Get real about what you're seeing in yourself, in your relationships, in your situation. The truth can be messy. And our astrology of this week is asking us to get into that messiness because that's what's real, right? It's asking us that there's beauty, or telling us that there's beauty from the honesty, not despite it. So it doesn't want us to perform. It doesn't want us to pretty it up. It's saying, look at the shadow and the light. The transformation that we're looking for is coming through confronting reality exactly as it is, right? Messy, complicated, and somehow still sacred. This is our permission to be real about what's hard right now. This is the spiritual work. Let's go into the tarot And I'm going to pull a card for each day of the week. And we're going to see what Spirit has to offer us this week. So let's go and pull our card for Monday through Sunday. I'm using the Modern Witch Tarot, which I really like. All right, there goes Mondays. Oh. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Let's put this aside. Ooh. Friday, Saturday, and 2 for Sunday. So I'm going to put those. Hold on, let me meditate on that. One for Sunday. Okay, and the subconscious card, 6 of Swords. Oh, I'm loving what I see already. All right, so let's piece this out on the table here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then 1 for the subconscious. Okay, we're going to turn these over, and we're going to go through what each of these cards bring to this week's astrology. So I'm going to flip over Monday, High Priestess in reverse. Tuesday, the 4 of Pentacles. Wednesday, the Moon. Thursday, Page of Cups in reverse. Friday, 9 of Cups upright. Saturday, 9 of Pentacles upright. Sunday, 9 of Wands upright. Okay. So the first card we want to look at is the High Priestess in reverse. So the High Priestess in reverse is really about our intuition. Thanks for everybody sending messages, but this is not the appropriate time. I'm in the middle of a reading. It happens all the time. When I get into the cards, it starts to ping. Okay, so the High Priestess in reverse. Look at the imagery on that card there. What does that talk about, right? Let's connect that to the Caravaggio card that we got as the guiding message. So the High Priestess means that there's something that's disconnecting us from our intuition. We're ignoring something that we already know deep down, or there's information that we've been avoiding looking at. Reversed, it's saying you're either blocking out your inner knowing or you're finally ready to see what's been hidden. When I look at that card with our Caravaggio guiding card here, that Venus square Saturn on Monday, this is Monday's card, by the way, is forcing us to admit what we've been thinking about in our intuition or feeling through our intuition, but not wanting to acknowledge. It could be about a relationship, your finances, or what you're actually worth. Any Venus theme is coming up this week on Monday. And the High Priestess in reverse is saying that you know the truth already. You've known. You just haven't wanted to look at it directly. Jupiter square Chiron is expanding that wound around trusting yourself. So have you been disregarding what your gut is saying because you're scared of what it's telling you? Are you doubting your inner knowing because of past trauma or thought that you can't trust yourself? Caravaggio here, this card here, is illuminating what the High Priestess reverse represents. So the truth that you've been keeping in the dark, even from yourself, you can't do anymore. There's no more I'm not sure or maybe I'm overthinking. We do know. We're just scared of what happens when we admit it. Mars in Capricorn wants you to act on what you know, not just sit with the information. So the message here for Monday is stop pretending that you don't know what you know. The answers are there, right? But they're not out there, if that makes sense. They're in here. They're waiting for us to stop ignoring it. And this week is forcing us to actually look at what we've been spiritually bypassing. And our intuition has been yelling at us pretty loudly. And Caravaggio here, our guiding card, is actually turning the spotlight on. It's turning the spotlight on what needs our attention. And this week's astrology is not going to let us look away anymore. So the question for this card is, what truth have you been avoiding? The second card that we got is the Four of Pentacles upright. Now, this card, when we look at our guiding message, remember our guiding message is still Caravaggio, right? Light and shadow playing together. When I see these two cards for Tuesday, I see this is about holding too tight to something, right? Either we're clutching our resources, our money, our time, our energy, our love, because there's a fear there. There's a fear of loss. It's the scarcity mindset card. It's white knuckling control because you're terrified that if you let go, everything will fall apart. Here's what this means with the astrology. So Venus squaring Saturn, right? That's showing us where we're holding on too tight. It could be in relationships. It can be not letting people in. It can be protecting your heart or your money, right? It's about being afraid to spend or being afraid to invest in yourself somehow. Saturn is asking us a question. Is this protection or is this prison? The High Priestess reverse says, you know you're doing this. So that's Monday, right? Deep down, you know that this grip here is not keeping you safe. It's keeping you stuck. You're ignoring your intuition that's whispering, you can let it go now. Caravaggio here is illuminating the truth with brutal clarity. It's clutching this control, this fear-based holding on. It's not protecting us anymore. It's suffocating us. Mars in Capricorn is illuminating the truth with such clarity that this clutching, this control, this fear-based holding on is not protecting us anymore. Mars in Capricorn wants us to take action. But the Four of Pentacles says that you're so afraid of losing what little you have that you can't move forward. What's the message here, especially for us sensitive souls, right? Our nervous systems have learned to hold tight because at some point, letting go meant danger. And that made sense then. But this week is showing us with Caravaggio's harsh light that once protected you, that whatever that was that protected you is now blocking your growth. The scarcity mindset, the fear of loss, the need to control, these aren't keeping us safe anymore. We already know what we need to release, so we need to stop pretending that we don't. The question that Spirit is asking us is, what are you holding on? What are you holding on out of fear instead of trust? The next card that we got is for Wednesday. We got the moon. Now, how that's appropriate. Let me see what day the new moon in Sagittarius is I want to say it's the 18th or the 19th. Hold on, let me just double check that. I think it is let me see, what date is that? Because 15th, 16th, 17th. I think it's the 18th. The 18th. I think that's when the 18th or the 19th. But anyway, we're up to Wednesday where we got the moon. So the moon upright represents confusion, fear, anxiety, illusion, right? When we can't see the path clearly. Everything feels uncertain, scary. The subconscious fears are running the show. You're in the fog and you don't trust what's real versus what your anxiety is telling you. So this reinforces the Four of Pentacles story for Tuesday, right? You're clutching tight to what feels safe, that Four of Pentacles, because everything feels scary and confusing, the moon. You're disconnected from your deeper knowing, High Priestess reverse, because the fear and uncertainty are so loud that you can't hear your intuition anymore. And what our guiding message is saying, that Caravaggio card, is saying that even in the fog, even with this fear, the truth is there waiting to be seen. How does this impact the three transits that we're going to go through this week, right? Venus squaring Saturn on Monday is cutting through the moon's illusions about relationships, about money. Saturn doesn't care about your fear stories, to be honest. It shows you what's real. That's its job. And I know that feels harsh, but it's actually compassionate. The fog is lifting, whether you're ready or not. Jupiter square Chiron reveals that this moon energy, this fear, this confusion, this anxiety is connected to old wounds. Past experiences taught us that uncertainty equals danger. Your nervous system learned to grip really tight, right? It learned to grip really tight when things feel unclear. But that hypervigilance is exhausting to us now. Mars in Capricorn is asking us to take practical action despite the fear, despite the confusion. Not after you have all the answers, not when it feels clear, but with what we have. The High Priestess in reverse on Monday is the key here. Underneath the moon's confusion and that Four of Pentacles death grip, you do know what you need to do. Your intuition is there. You're just too scared to listen to it because it's telling you to do something that feels risky. Like loosening your grip or trusting the process or admitting a truth that's uncomfortable. Caravaggio's message is that the shadows are real. The fear is real. The confusion is real. And yet the truth is still there. Caravaggio's paintings showed us that we can acknowledge the darkness without letting it be the whole story. You can hold both, the fear and the knowing. For those of us who are sensitive souls, who are neurodivergent, our nervous system might be in a state of overdrive. Everything feels like too much. The moon energy is overwhelming because you feel everything so deeply. But here's what this week's energy is offering us. The Venus-Saturn reality check is actually a relief. It's solid ground. It's here's what's actually true, cutting through the anxiety spiral. The real question this spread is asking is, what would you do if the fog suddenly cleared? What choice would you make if you trusted yourself? You already know the answer. The moon is just making you doubt it. This week won't let you stay in that doubt anymore. What are you really afraid will happen if you let go? Something to think about. Thursday, we've got the Page of Cups in reverse. I believe this card came out in a previous reading. It might have been, I feel like I remember this card coming up. So anyway, we got the Page of Cups reversed. What does that mean in light of this week's astrology? We're at 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th. 18th. The 18th, I believe that is when the new moon in Sagittarius is. Let me just double check. Let me just double check the dates. New moon in Sagittarius. Hold on one second. I just want to look at my moon calendar. No, it's happening December 19th. Okay. So Thursday, Page of Cups. All right, Page of Cups in reverse. That's emotional shutdown. That's when you stop listening to your feelings because there's just too much. It's dismissing the gentle, intuitive pushes, as maybe that's nothing. It's that moment when you go, I'm fine, I'm overthinking, I need to be more rational, and you cut yourself off from your own emotional truth. That's what's happening with this card. You're in this moon energy here, right, where everything feels confusing and scary and unclear. So you hang tight to what's safe and you shut down your emotional receptivity because feeling everything while being confused is too overwhelming. You stop trusting your intuition because your emotions feel unreliable right now. And what's happening is that The energy is illuminating all of this. Saturn is illuminating all of this with brutal honesty. The universe is saying the feelings aren't the issue. It's your inability to honor them that is. The Venus square Saturn transit cuts through that I'm being too sensitive narrative. It actually shows you where you've been dismissing your emotional knowing as dramatic or needy in relationships or around money. Jupiter square Chiron shows us the wound that's underneath. At some point, being emotionally vulnerable got you hurt. Your sensitivity was weaponized against you. Someone made you feel like your feelings were too much. So you learned to shut down, like the Page of Cups, to stop receiving those emotional messages, to stop being so open, so tender. The High Priestess in reverse and the Page of Cups together tells me that you're feeling cut off from your inner guidance system because it speaks through feeling and you're too scared to feel right now. Mars in Capricorn is asking us to take action, but how can you act with integrity when you're ignoring every single emotional signal that your body is sending you? This is important. The Page of Cups reverse isn't a character flaw. It's a survival mechanism. You shut down your emotional receptivity because being open while everything else felt uncertain, confusing, scared, it's just too much for our nervous system. So we went into self-protection mode. But this week's astrology is telling us that that shutdown is more dangerous than being open. You're not too sensitive. You're not overthinking. Those emotional messages that you've been dismissing, they're the truth trying to get through. The Page of Cups reversed is your ghost reading your own intuition and leaving it on the road, leaving it on red. The real message here is that we've been holding on too tight to control. Four Pentacles said that. Because we're scared, right? And we're uncertain, the moon. So we shut down our emotional knowing, Page of Cups reverse, and we stop listening to our soul's deeper wisdom, High Priestess reverse. But the sensitivity isn't the issue. It's the solution. Those feelings you've been calling too much, they're telling us exactly what needs to change. So this week is not going to let you stay numb anymore. Venus square Saturn is going to make you feel the truth about what's sustainable. Jupiter square Chiron is going to make you feel that old wound. Mars in Capricorn is asking us to act on what we feel. The question is, what emotional message have we been ignoring? Because acknowledging it would mean that we have to change something. Spirit is telling us our sensitivity isn't our weakness right now. It's our refusal to honor it that is. Okay, we're up to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, December 19th. That's the day we have the new moon in Sag. And we get the 9 of Cups upright. I like to see that. For the new moon in Sagittarius, 9 of Cups upright, that is just a beautiful message. This is the card, when I see it, of contentment. Look how she's sitting there, right? It doesn't look like she needs anything to me. She has this face of contentment. These 9 cups behind her, legs crossed. She's in a good place. You know, this changes everything. The 9 of Cups is the wish fulfillment card. So emotional satisfaction, getting what you actually want, deep contentment, right? So the thing that we want, the emotional fulfillment, the wish coming true, that deep satisfaction is on the other side of everything else that this spread revealed. We cannot get to the 9 of Cups without staying in the, by staying in the fog of confusion, the moon. We can't get to the 9 of Cups if we're clutching tight to what feels safe out of scarcity. We cannot get to the 9 of Cups if we're shutting down our emotional receptivity. We cannot get to the Nine of Cups if we ignore what it is we already know, the High Priestess reverse. So you see what's on the other side of this? What's on the other side of this spread is the Nine of Cups. So we're going to have to work through this week. It's telling us that what we wish for is available, but not from where we're currently standing. The Nine of Cups is showing us that, especially with that Venus square Saturn on Monday, right? It's telling us that this is the reality check that clears the path to the Nine of Cups, right? It's removing what's not sustainable. So there's room for actually, what satisfies us to come through. This is not a punishment from Saturn, from what I see. It's pruning dead weight so that our wish can actually manifest. It's showing us that the old wound that made us grip fear so tightly like this is the only thing that's standing between you and the emotional fulfillment in this Nine of Cups. Healing that wound, even just acknowledging that it exists, opens the door to the Nine of Cups. Mars in Capricorn is asking what practical action would move you forward to that wish? What needs to change in the physical world for you to feel that satisfaction? The High Priestess and the Page of Cups here is telling us that we have to start feeling again. You have to reconnect with your intuition. You have to open back up. This wish doesn't come through our head. It comes through our heart. Caravaggio, we'll go back to our old friend Caravaggio here. He's illuminating the truth that we can't numb our way to joy. We can't control our way to contentment. We can't think our way to emotional fulfillment. The harsh light is showing us that the path that we're on right now is not going to get us to the Nine of Cups, period. But that doesn't mean that our wish is impossible. The Nine of Cups wouldn't show up if it wasn't available to you, but it does require us to do something that feels scary right now. That's soften, open up, feel, trust. The Venus-Saturn square is asking us what relationship pattern or financial pattern needs to shift for you to feel satisfied. The Jupiter-Chiron square is asking what old wounds around not being enough needs healing for you to receive what you want. The moon is asking, can you move forward even when the path isn't perfectly clear? The Four of Pentacles is asking, what do you need to release that death grip? And the Page of Cups is asking, what emotional message do you need to start receiving again? The High Priestess in reverse is asking, what do you already know that you're pretending that you don't? And lastly, the Nine of Cups is asking and promising, if we do those things that these cards are telling us to do, I'm going to keep them in order. If we do what these cards are asking us to do, then the wish comes true. What's the real question that this spread is asking us? Well, this spread is saying, are you willing to feel uncertain? Release control, open your heart back up, and trust what you know in order to receive what you actually want. Because that's the deal this week's astrology is offering us. Our path to that wish is through our sensitivity, not around it. But what's the wish? And what are you afraid you'll have to give up to get it? Think about that this week. This happens to be the week of the new moon in Sagittarius too, the same day as this Nine of Cups, right? It's happening on the same day. So if you're interested in how this connects to the new moon in Sagittarius, I would urge you to look at the reading that we did yesterday the brave belief reset that talks about the new moon in Sagittarius and what that means for us. So that might be your clue, your insight into what that wish really is. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. All right, we're up to Saturday. Saturday, we've got the 9 of Pentacles. I love seeing this card. Like, if I could be anything in the tarot card deck, it's a cross between the High Priestess and the 9 of Pentacles. There's something beautiful about the 9 of Pentacles. Look at that imagery. What I love about this card is that she's tending to her garden. She's worked hard to amass the wealth that she has here, right? But if you notice what's on her head, she's got this bird on top of her head, right? This tells me that she's looking far out there. There's long-range vision here. This 9 of Pentacles is about being independent, being self-sufficient, enjoying the abundance that you built yourself, standing in the garden that you cultivated. The financial and material security that came from your work, your discipline, your choices. It's, I don't need anyone else. I built this. So what is the whole spread saying so far? Well, it's saying that the path where you are now, right, which is confused, clutching tight, shutting down, disconnected from your knowing, to what you want, that 9 of Cups, emotional fulfillment, goes through the 9 of Pentacles, which is self-sufficiency, independence, and building your own security. This is huge. So we need to stop waiting for someone else to provide us security. Stop clutching to relationships or money situations that make you feel small. Build your own. Venus square Saturn cuts through any codependent traits, any financial dependence, and it asks us if we can stand on our own. Jupiter square Chiron reveals the wound. You don't trust that you can be self-sufficient because there's an old wound around, like, I can't do this alone, or I need someone else to make me feel safe, worthy, or secure. That wound is what keeps you clutching tight, that 4 of Pentacles, instead of building your own garden. 9 of Pentacles. Mars in Capricorn is actually perfect for the 9 of Pentacles energy. Mars in Capricorn says, put in the work. Build the structure. Create something that's yours, that nobody can take away from you. It's disciplined. It's strategic. It's self-reliant action. The High Priestess and the Page of Cups here, together, they mean that you've been ignoring the inner knowing that's been telling you you need to do this yourself. You've been shutting down the emotional truth that you can't rely on external sources for your security anymore. The moon is a fear. What if I can't? What if I fail? What if I'm alone? The confusion around whether you're capable of true independence. And then the 4 of Pentacles is you clutching to whatever little security you have because building your own feels too scary or too uncertain. But Caravaggio, our good old friend Caravaggio, is telling us that we could be building a whole garden. The harsh light reveals that scarcity mindset, that fear-based grip, that need for external validation or security is the very thing that's keeping us small. The 9 of Pentacles is available to us this week, but we have to let go of that 4 of Pentacles energy in order to get there. The 9 of Cups shows up. The 9 of Pentacles, rather, shows up after the 9 of Cups. So that means that in order to get to that 9 of Pentacles, we have to open up our hearts. We need to stop looking outside for ourselves, for safety. And we need to start building it from within. So whether we've been taught, in our past that needing others is what makes us good or loving, that self-sufficiency is selfish, That's a belief system, Sagittarius. There goes that new moon in Sag coming through here. That is a belief that needs to end. Asking for what you're worth is not demanding. Building your own security doesn't mean you're cold or detached. That's the wound that's talking, right? Not the truth. The Knight of Pentacles isn't about cutting people off or being hard. It's about standing in your power, your worth, your capability, so that when you do connect with others, it's from choice, not desperate need. Venus square Saturn is asking us, where are you settling in relationships or finances because you don't believe that you can do better on your own? Ooh. Jupiter square Chiron is showing us what wound around autonomy and self-worth is keeping us from building what's ours. Mars in Capricorn is demanding, what practical steps are you taking toward independence? So this spread so far, Monday through Saturday, so far is showing us, stop clutching to what little feels safe. Start listening to what we already know. Open back up to your emotional truth. Move through the fear and the uncertainty. Build your own security and abundance. That's when you get the emotional fulfillment that you want. No one's coming to save us. And that's not a tragedy, okay? That's liberation. This week is forcing us to see that the security that we're waiting for, that validation that we're seeking, that safety that we're trying to find outside of ourselves, we have to build it ourselves. And we can. The Nine of Pentacles would not show up if we were not capable of doing so. My question to you is, what would you build if you stopped waiting for permission, validation, or someone else to make it first? Your sensitivity isn't weakness, my friend. It's the garden. Now Saturn wants us to tend to it. Sunday, we got the Nine of Wands. Here's the imagery on that there. Nine of Wands, right? This card, I mean, it's effort, right? Like, what does it take to build that Nine of Pentacles, to get that wish fulfilled? It's effort. It's effort. And sometimes that effort can feel downright exhausting. Look, she's got boxer clothes on. Look, she got her hands taped. She's ready to go into battle. She's got her boxing shoes on, her hair tied up. She's ready. But she's also weary. Look at the expression on her face there. Can you see that expression? She's weary. You're exhausted, but you got to keep going, right? It's almost like, man, I don't know how much fight I have left in me, right? This tells me why you're clutching the Four of Pentacles so tightly. It's because you've been hurt so many times that you can't risk losing what little security that we have left. Nine of Wands. You didn't shut down emotionally because you're cold. You shut down because staying open means I could get hurt again. This same thing can happen again. And you don't have the capacity for one more wound. You are tired. You're not ignoring your intuition because you're disconnected. You're ignoring it because you're so battle weary that you can't trust anything anymore, including yourself. Nine of Wands. That confusion with the moon isn't random. It's what happens when you've been fighting for so long that you can't see straight anymore. This week's astrology is critical. When we look at the week, for someone who's already in this Nine of Wands energy, this week feels like, are you kidding me? Another reality check? Saturn. Dude, another thing I have to face in relationships or money, I'm already tired. Jupiter square Chiron says the reason why we're so tired is because the same wound keeps getting re-triggered. You keep having to defend yourself around the same issues, my safety, my autonomy, my worth, and you're tired because you've been fighting this fight your whole damn life. Mars in Capricorn is asking us to take disciplined action when we're already running on fumes. It's like asking for one more push when you're already at your limit. This is going to be brutal for sensitive people. I'm not going to sugarcoat this for you. Like, you don't just feel one battle. For us who are sensitive, it's like we feel all the battles all the time. Our nervous system has been in fight mode for so long that you can't even remember what safety felt like. Every interaction feels like potential danger. Every vulnerability feels like exposing yourself to more pain. But we got 3 nines: 9 of Cups, 9 of Pentacles, 9 of Wands. Here's what these cards mean together. These 3 cards, these nines in the tarot is the final stage before completion, the 10. So you're at the end of something. You're so close, but you're also so tired. 9 of Wands says this is where you are now, right? You're exhausted, you're defensive, you're barely holding on. 9 of Pentacles says here's where you need to go. You want to get to self-sufficiency. You want to get to your own security. 9 of Cups says here's what's waiting on the other side of that fight: emotional fulfillment. You're so close. The defenses that kept you alive in that 9 of Wands are now keeping you from the life you want. This is the life you want. The walls that we built to protect ourselves are now our prison. You survived by staying guarded, but you can't thrive from that place. Venus square Saturn this week is showing us which battles we need to stop fighting, which relationships or financial patterns you aren't defending because it's not worth your protecting anymore. What are you holding on to that's draining you and not sustaining you? Jupiter square Chiron is saying that the wound that made you so defensive, it's time to heal that. We're not going to just put on more armor. That's what we've been doing. It's not better strategies. It's actual healing this time, because we can't build this 9 of Pentacles from a place of exhaustion and hypervigilance. Mars in Capricorn is asking for strategic, sustainable action, not heroic pushing through, not one more fight, one more battle, but deliberate choices about where we're putting our energy. And our energy is limited. The Page of Cups is the key here, right? We shut down because staying open while under attack is impossible. But we're not under attack anymore, but we're still in that defensive mode because our nervous system doesn't understand that the war is over. Oh, I'm getting chills. The High Priestess reverse says your intuition has been telling you you can rest now. You can lower the shields, stand down. But you don't trust it because lowering your guard in the past has gotten you hurt before. The moon is saying you can't see clearly because you're tired. Battle fatigue creates fog. So what's the message here? The whole spread, the whole week, what's the message? That we don't need to fight our way to the 9 of Pentacles. We need to build from a place of rest, not warfare. That self-sufficiency that you're seeking isn't another battle to win. It's the peace that comes when you stop defending against threats that aren't there anymore. I want to reach out and give you a big hug. The 9 of Cups isn't waiting for you to win one more fight. It's waiting for you to lay down your weapons and admit that you're tired. This week is asking, what would happen if we stopped defending and started building instead? What if the one more battle isn't another fight, but the courage to be vulnerable enough to heal? You're not weak for being tired. You're human. And for highly sensitive souls, you've been fighting in a world that wasn't built for your nervous system. Of course you're tired. Of course you're tired. I'm tired. The 9 of Wands says you've survived so much. The 9 of Pentacles says now build something that's yours. The Nine of Cups says you get to rest in what you want. But you can't do the building while you're still bleeding from old battles. This week is forcing you to stop, to look at the wounds and admit what's not sustainable anymore and make different choices. The real question is, what are you defending against that isn't actually a threat anymore? And what would you create if you use that energy to build instead of protect? Your sensitivity made you vigilant. Now, let it make you wise. Let's examine what's been sitting in the subconscious. Oh, Six of Swords. If that's not a perfect card, I don't know what is. Six of Swords tells us that we have to move away from something. It tells us that we're sailing away to calmer waters somehow. Our back is turned. These swords, we're leaving that scenario and we're moving away to calmer water. Look at the water in the background. See how still it is? And the water in the foreground here is all choppy. Yeah, we're trying to move away from this. It's the transition card. We're leaving behind what's familiar and painful for something that's unknown but better. This is we're not being asked to heal where we are. We're being asked to move. And deep down in our subconscious, we know it. We know it. This is happening because we're either trying to stay somewhere we've already outgrown. And the Nine of Pentacles and the Nine of Cups aren't where we are. They're across the water on the other shore. And the Six of Swords is the boat. This is perfect timing. On December 15th, Mars enters Capricorn. The practical energy and discipline you actually need to make that transition happens. Mars in Capricorn is the boat. It's deliberate, strategic movement towards something that's better. When Venus squares Saturn on Monday, what you thought was coming with you, it's not. It's not. This transit shows you what relationships, what financial situations or patterns cannot make the journey. Saturn is our reality check. You have to leave some things behind. We have to sail away and leave the swords behind us. When Jupiter squares Chiron, that wound that's been making us so exhausted can't heal in the same environment that built it. So we have to move away from what keeps re-triggering it. And that healing happens through the transition, not before it. The sun enters Capricorn on Saturday. That's when the new chapter officially starts. New shore, new foundation totally, to build your Nine of Pentacles on. This is some deep astrology, my friends, right? Because for those of us who feel things pretty intensely, transitions can be hard. I'm autistic. I have ADHD. Transitions literally are difficult for me, both in the 3D and sometimes in the 5, right? We feel everything so intensely. Our nervous system wants us to stay in what's familiar, even if it's painful, because at least we know how to survive there. The unknown feels like too much risk when you're already exhausted. But what is Caravaggio telling us? Caravaggio is telling us staying is killing us. The moon, that confusion, the shutdown, that Page of Cups in reverse, that scarcity grip, the Four of Pentacles, the battle fatigue, Nine of Wands. These aren't separate problems. They're all symptoms of being in the wrong place. And we're trying to make something work that fundamentally doesn't work anymore. The High Priestess reverse has been screaming at us. Leave, move, go. And you've been ignoring it because the Nine of Wands is saying, I am too tired to start over. And the Moon is saying, but what if it's worse? And the Four of Pentacles is saying, what if I lose what little I have? The three nines tells me that you're at the end of a battle you can't win where you are, one, or a phase where you'll never build true independence in this situation, right? Or a pattern that won't give you emotional fulfillment. You're at the end of whatever that is for you here. The Six of Swords says the nines are on the other side of the water, okay? That Nine of Cups, Nine of Pentacles is on the other side of the water, but we still have to cross the water to get to them. So that's what we're doing this week, my friends. We're crossing the water. We're severing the attachments that kept us stuck. We're letting go of relationships that can evolve. We're dismissing or throwing away financial situations that kept us small, patterns that require us to stay in that sense of hypervigilance, that always battle ready state. Yeah, we're leaving that. Our wounds are going to be very visible this week. And it's going to show itself up in areas that have to do with our safety, our autonomy, and our self-worth. And what that Jupiter square Chiron transit is saying is that we'll never heal if we stay in the same environment that keeps reopening that wound. Mars in Capricorn is handing you the oars and saying, row, baby, row. So the Six of Swords isn't saying, are you ready to go? It's saying the water is rising and you have to go. You already know what you're leaving. You've already known it. Your intuition has already told you. You're just too tired to face it, Nine of Wands. And you're too scared of the unknown, the Moon. And you're too attached to the little security that we have, Four of Pentacles. But the Page of Cups reverse is you refusing to feel the truth. It's me refusing to feel the truth that this is not sustainable. Saturn is trying to tell us that message. And we can't keep fighting the same battles. You can't keep shutting down. We can't keep clutching to something that's slowly draining us. What's beautiful is that the Six of Swords are letting us know that the water is calmer on the other side. The Nine of Pentacles is our own garden, our own abundance, our own security that is built by us. That's what exists on the other side. The Nine of Cups, the emotional fulfillment you're wishing for, that's what exists on the other side. But we have to get in the boat while we're tired, while we're scared, while we don't have all the answers. Monday's transits, my friends, aren't happening to us. They're happening for us. They're making staying harder than leaving. They're removing what kept us tethered. They're showing us what can't come with us so we can stop trying to drag it along. Mars in Capricorn is the disciplined, practical energy to make the transition real. Not just thinking about it, not just wishing for it, but actually making it. The question that the spread is asking us is, what are you staying for that isn't worth the cost anymore? More specifically, what relationship or situation can evolve with you? What wound will never heal if you stay here? What would you build if you cross the water? What are you defending that isn't yours to protect anymore? And what transition are you refusing to acknowledge? That's what's being asked of us. For sensitive souls specifically, I want you to know that you didn't shut down your emotions and your intuition because you're broken. Spirit is aware of that. You shut down because staying open while being in the wrong place is unbearable. And the Page of Cups reverse was how you survived. And that got you through to a point. But the Six of Swords is saying you can open all that back up once you're clearly on the other shore. The High Priestess reverse says, don't worry, your intuition is going to come back when you're somewhere safe enough to hear it. Chills. The Nine of Cups says emotional fulfillment exists on the other side, just not here. This transition is about being brave. It's about being honest. It's actually about being honest more so than it is being brave. Caravaggio is illuminating what we already know, but I've been too exhausted to admit that we can't stay. So what are we being asked to do this week? Well, we're being asked to stop defending what's already dead. Release the grip on what isn't serving us. Trust what we know, even though it's scary. Get in the boat and use the Mars in Capricorn to row. The Nine of Pentacles and the Nine of Cups aren't rewards for suffering more. They're the life that's waiting for us when we finally choose ourselves. So here's my question to you before we close. What transition are we avoiding? And what is it costing us to stay? Thank you for joining me today. This was a little impromptu and ahead of time reading, and I'm hoping that this brings you so much clarity and so much support as we move into the week ahead. Thank you all, and I'll see you soon. Bye.